Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast in a week in wrestling where WWE, they found a new home for a lot of events coming up. We'll get into that in a minute. House shows are returning. Now, is that going to be a good or a bad thing for a wrestler? I have a wrestler's thoughts on that, so we'll get into that in a minute. Cody Rhodes and Gunther have finally signed their contracts, but is this too early? Well, we'll find out. In the world of AEW, are they just about to sign a WWE legend? Darby Allin's title defenses continue, but the devil himself has just re-signed to take on MJF next week, so that could be the end. And speaking of the end, I kind of feel like I have something, maybe I have something against this guy, but the dream of the youngest in charge, Leon Slater, was crushed this past week on TNA. But did they sign a blue chip candidate? We'll find out who that person is in a minute. We'll get to it. And Kevin Knight, how far is the ceiling for that man? And in NWA, a shocking turn of events leads to a new women's world champion. I'm going to take a breath and introduce our guest. You will notice David isn't here this evening, parental duties. He's going to be his Sunday evening over here in the UK. But I do have someone from the States that has a lot of Funko Pops behind him. From the Mouthing Off with Mike with podcast, it is the one and only. It is Mike. Hello. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much, Adam, for an incredible introduction. And my goodness, man, take a breath. That was a lot to get out. A lot taking place in a week of professional wrestling, and that was just last week. And we're gearing up for another week this week. So thank you for having me here on the show. Shout out to David. Hopefully, parental duties are going well. I can slot in here, come in the co-chair spot for a night. No big deal. We could talk some wrestling. So thank you very much, Adam, for that great introduction. I'm excited to talk all things wrestling, man. It's been a kind of a very high news week, like a lot of news coming from all the wrestling promotions here across the globe. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, me too. And thank you for coming on as well. It's a pleasure talking to you, Mike. Look, I kicked off with the news at the start. WWE, or TKO, let's just be honest, TKO announcing Arizona. They're going to have a lot of events spanning from the UFC to the WWE. WrestleMania wasn't one of those. Actually, I went to the last WrestleMania in Arizona back in 26. I went out there for that. It was great. But a lot of premium live events come in Arizona's way. Someone obviously like yourself that lives out in America. What's the impact of that going to be for Arizona?
So, I mean, double down on it here for you. I don't think I even, told you, I am from Arizona. So I live in
Oh,
Arizona.
brilliant.
So this is
Yeah.
this is huge news for Arizona. This is huge news for the professional wrestling community out here in Arizona. We're seeing kind of this resurgence
Mm.
over the last few years in Arizona. It's a kind of something that I haven't seen in my years living out here with professional wrestling, specifically with the indies. We've seen a lot of big names come through recently. Priscilla Kelly, Shotzi, we had even, Hammerstone, Brittany Brooks making her waves here on the indie scene as well. And Arizona is a very hungry wrestling city. Like Phoenix, Tucson, the big cities out here. They're hungry. They love wrestling. Collision ran out here in Tucson. WWE runs out here consistently. I think the last major PLE out here was Royal Rumble 2019, and I was there for that one. I'm jealous. I was not at that WrestleMania. You
Yeah.
were at WrestleMania 26. That was before I had lived in the state, but I think this is big for Arizona. We're a great state. We're kind of like the Florida of the Southwest,
Yeah.
where we have great weather year round. We get a
So,
little cold, in the winter, but what's cold to someone who's dealing with, negative 30 degrees and snow,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
40 degrees or 50 degrees, that's not bad. So I think it's going to be a big thing. And I think I'm hoping, this hopefully gets us a WrestleMania. I think a Royal Rumble, they had said, or I think it was a Survivor Series,
Mhm.
a Saturday night's main event, and another show rumored for the WWE side. UFC, they didn't give us too much information about. And the bull riding is big out here, but not really something that I could speak on. But I think it's going to be a big thing for Arizona sports.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, I went out there, as I said, for WrestleMania 26, and I'll never forget it. I got into a taxi to take us to one of the malls because when I went out there, go out for 2 weeks. I went out for WrestleMania week and then just a week of sightseeing and whatnot and shopping. And I got into the taxi, and obviously being a Brit, and the sun was out, and it was like I was in like a sleeveless top and like shorts or a vest top, or whatever you guys call it. And we got into a cab, and the cab driver's turning away, and there's a guy walking the street, and he's in jeans, leather jacket, jumper. And I said to the driver, I was like, what's going on? Why is he wearing that? He's like, oh, we don't get excited out here unless it hits 100. I was like, oh, okay, fair, fair enough. But that just, the
It's like
international,
that.
yeah, exactly that. The international fan, so to speak. You can tell us from a mile off. But look, with that though, I mean, in terms of that, I forgive me, I can't remember where in Tucson. What's the arena called that they would hold these shows?
It's super small arena. I think it's oh man, it's where the Tucson Roadrunners play
Mhm.
the hockey team down there. I'm gonna pull it up here. I'm pretty sure it's just the Tucson Arena. It doesn't have a name designation, so they just the Tucson Arena. Um, Phoenix, I think you're gonna probably see a Survivor Series. That's gonna definitely be in Phoenix. That's the heart. They can set
Yep.
up an act, a fan fest or whatever they're called now, WWE World or whatever. If they decide to do that for Survivor Series or whatever, they've got the convention center. You were
Yeah.
here at WrestleMania
Yeah. Convention center went
26.
to. Yeah.
So Glendale, where you went for the show for
Mhm.
actual WrestleMania, Glendale is like you could talk to the international crowd when they come to Arizona. If anything's at Glendale, just prepare for like a 30-40 minute drive if you're staying in, Phoenix, or you're staying in any of the smaller, sub cities. So that you always gonna have that, and then you have downtown Phoenix we're by the convention center where Chase Field is, where they had
Yeah.
Royal Rumble 2019. So they've got a lot of versatility here. When it comes to arenas, because both arenas have retractable roofs. So doesn't matter what year they do it in. If it's the summer, the winter, they're going to have an opportune time for any event here.
Should be fun. Should be good when it gets there. We'll find out the events as and when it happens. But another thing returning to the WWE house shows, albeit very limited schedule. There's a couple of house shows. I won't read them all off, but actually, will. New Mexico, Pennsylvania, California, Illinois, Virginia, New Hampshire, Georgia, and South Charleston. Across July and August. WWE. Now, this is something that from what I've read, that the actual wrestlers have been crying out for house shows and a lot to do a lot more. I suppose it helps on the merchandise sales. I spoke to RVD. He was on an interview you can see on our playlist below, and it wasn't necessarily house shows that I was saying, but it was something to do with the schedule that the wrestlers do now. And I said to him, like, how does it benefit with this less of a schedule? And he kind of said it was yin and yang. He said on a good thing, it's nice because you're at home a bit more. He said the flip side of it, your body gets used to the bumps that you do. If you're on the road 300 days a year, your body will become immune to it. But he said, like, the thing that when the house shows stop is it increases the injury because the body isn't used to then taking that punishment that they take on a longer basis. So with this house shows coming back, do you see it as a good thing, Michael? Is there a risk that again too much or too many house shows could go the opposite way?
I think it's a good thing. I think of obviously RVD, one of the greatest in the business, giving, some insight into that. So I would agree 100%. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? I've never taken a bump. I'd love to one of these days get in the ring and see and feel it for myself so I
It
can,
hurts.
kind of understand that. I'm sure it does. But I kind of understand that. I can understand that, right? It's like, when you're working out in the gym, right? And you start getting those
Mhm.
calluses on your hands, and you're like, oh my hand, and then after a while, it's like those calluses are just calluses. You don't even feel them. That makes sense. The body gets calloused almost to a sense where it's just taking the same beating over and over again, and it's just used to it. I can understand that. I think it's going to be big, not only from the standpoint of getting the wrestlers more in ring time, because I think we've seen right now WWE's in this weird model. I would almost call it I don't know how familiar you are with US baseball, but I would call it kind of the baseball model. They've run into this situation where they have their own farm system now. You can
Mhm.
say you can call Evolve basically double A baseball now at this point, where you're coming into the company, you're starting out in Evolve, and you're going to try to make your way up the farm system to get to triple A, which is NXT. So now,
Yeah.
oh, I've made it to NXT, and now I've understand how to wrestle at the NXT level. And all right, now I'm trying to get to the major leagues, Raw and SmackDown. All right, now I've gotten the call up to Raw and SmackDown, and now I'm on the road, wrestling, but you're not getting that much in-ring wrestling, really.
Yeah.
If you look at it, I think a couple weeks ago, wrestlers were talking about how many matches they had like the last year or something, and it was like, some wrestlers were down to like single digits, double digits, when it was a time where wrestlers were wrestling triple digits. They're
Yeah.
wrestling 300 matches a year. Now it's like 100. Like,
Mm.
I can see from that standpoint, and I think from another standpoint, accessibility. We're in a really tough time across the world, global economy, right? People
Yeah.
don't have the money maybe to spend on a Raw and a SmackDown, but hey, maybe if a house show comes to town, maybe I can bring my family of 4, 5, 6 to a house show for a little bit cheaper. That's depending on if TKO decides to, be gracious when it comes to those prices.
Yeah.
We can't corporate, three-headed monster, but we can at the same time. So I'm intrigued to see how this plays out, but I think it's going to be a good thing as long as prices are good and talent gets the reps in and stays healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from what I heard that the house show model is bringing back a cheaper price model for a house show, right? Whether or
Hallelujah.
not, I use this analogy, which is quite a scary one. It's not necessarily for a house show, but I went to the first ever live Raw in the UK, right? It was in Manchester, and I paid the equivalent of $60 for a ticket. That's including all the taxes, right? And that $60 ticket got me not on the floor, but I was just as it tiered up, perfect view of everything. When they come over, I think it was last year to Manchester. The arenas. I'm not sure if it's the same arena or if it's just changed its name or it's a totally different arena. I don't know. But I could literally get near enough the exact same ticket, and it was £1,000. So $1,200. That's the ticket price that was
Ooh,
Monday night. That was just one show, which was crazy, right? So
that's that's about what I've been feeling. I used to be able to, pick up a ticket. I used to, pick up tickets 40, $50
yeah,
out here, a few 10 years ago. It was 2016 SmackDown. I think I paid $35 and I was sitting like in the 100, like within the first
yeah.
5 rows of like the slanted section. So the pricing has gotten just miserable. And the sad reality is it's not even just WWE, it's all everything. Concerts, it costs 3 times as much to go to a concert that it did, 10 years ago. And that's just the effect right now we have.
Well, let's just hope that this house show. Let's see. Let's see what happens when these tickets go on sale. I think they go on sale this week, actually. So it'd be interesting to see what they will go on price. We'll have a look and we can compare. We'll come back to WWE in a minute. We've got another two stories to hit with WWE. I want to talk AEW, which has been on fire. In my opinion, the promotion of the year for the last 18 months, hands down. And this is from
100%.
a big WWE fan, by the way. Like, I love all sorts, right? I watch it all. I watch NWA, TNA, WWE, the lot. I watch it. So I love wrestling, so I'm not tribalistic, but I've always preferred WWE. Growing up, I was WWE over WCW and all that sort of stuff. But I do like wrestling, so I watch it all. But AEW for me, last 18 months, hands down, way better than anything else out there. Now, interesting news this week, and it dropped, I think, Thursday, was apparently there is heavy interest in AEW in bringing into All Elite Wrestling Mick Foley, the former WWE Hall of Famer. Lots of talk about it. Where do you stand on this, Mike? And also, where does he fit if he comes into AEW?
That is a really interesting question. Fit. Where does he fit into this? I mean, obviously mine kind of goes right to Darby Allen, kind
Yeah.
of like a second mentor, because we've seen, Sting, kind of take Darby under his wing, and now you see Darby kind of, leaning into more of Sting's moves here and there in matches. Maybe with Darby, because Darby kind of is like, we've heard comparisons. I think Darby just likes to just hurt himself at this point. Like some of the stuff I've seen him do, like the broken glass shards, getting thrown
Yeah.
from the ring to the announce table by Claudio, all of everything, right? I think you could just say the entire body of Darby's work is just absolutely, you just kind of wince. Like I don't wince
Mm.
at wrestling a lot, But when
Yeah.
Darby's wrestling, I wince. And I haven't had that feeling since when I would watch Mick Foley. And
Yeah.
I would wince
Agreed.
at what Mick Foley was doing. So could be a good spot for him there. Mick's an interesting guy right now. I don't like have do you want Mick Foley like on Wrestling Weekly again? Because I think for Mick it's kind of like a if he pops up every once in a while and does a hey, cheap pop,
Hmm.
Mick Foley thing. I sure, but like I think Mick should just hang out with the fam, man. Like I don't think, just hang, man. Your body's been through hell in your lifetime, man.
Yeah, I don't know where I see him. I mean, produce him, maybe. Could he do something back?
Maybe.
But I just feel if AEW bring like if he were to be hired, I just feel they would have him doing not maybe not as you say, maybe not every week. I don't feel as if AEW needs that authority figure. They need to differentiate themselves from what WWE are doing. They're doing that in the ring, which is great because it is totally different to what we see in WWE. So to then have Mick Foley come in as like a general manager and authority doesn't work, and it would then become WWE light, which is what
Yeah.
I wouldn't want from AEW. I want it. I want that difference. That's why I love it because it is different to the WWE. It's different to TNA. It's different to NWA. So it gives me that different feel. So I'm not against Foley coming in. I'm just mindful of what he would do. Like a bit like you there, Mike. I wouldn't want him on my television every week. Special ref maybe if the match needed it. But again, I agree with you. I don't want him on my TV every week. I've loved Mick, and I've had the pleasure of meeting the guy. He's done, as you say, he made me wince in the ring. Darby Allin does that to me too. But I feel as if backstage would be fine with the occasional great to be here in Long Island cheap pop thing that he would do
Yeah.
back in the day.
Like
That's what.
as a locker room, character, as a vibe, just for the guys in the back, like, hey, Mick, what do you think about this spot? I'm thinking about going off the top of a 13-foot ladder through 13-inch spikes. Like, you think that's a good idea or not? Mick, probably, yeah, but maybe you should do it, maybe a little bit less like that and do it more like this. Like, I could see more of those kind of valuable insights. Maybe obviously we know both of those guys are human crash, test dummies back in their retrospect days, especially
Yeah.
Mick. But, if he can bring a little bit more of that, kind of what I guess Jericho brings to the AEW locker room, a guy like Cope, Christian, Big Show, let's see. Like you said, I don't want him on my TV weekly, but if he can bring something valuable to an already, I think, like you said, an on fire wrestling company, why the hell not?
Yeah, exactly that. 14,000 tickets sold for next week's Double or Nothing, by the way, as well, which is fantastic.
We'll be there.
25,000. And, well, we're going to be all in again. 25,000 sold for all in at Wembley again. So it's going in the right direction. So we're very much appreciated. And it's great to have something new. It's great to have something different on our television, wrestling wise, as well.
I gotta make that trip across the pond one of these days, man. I gotta do it.
Oh, if you do, man, we'll be more than happy to meet up, and we'll have a beer, right? As we have we'll have some UK beer and see if we can, we'll watch some wrestling over here.
I will gladly take a UK pint. Give me a pint. Give me all of the things. I want to take it all in, baby.
Not at our prices, you wouldn't. You mean TKO? But right, we can wait and see on that. But you mentioned Derby. Another like another two defenses this week of the championship. Guevara on Collision. Coming up this week on Dynamite, Speedball Mike Bailey. Probably another match on Collision. We'll see. And then he goes to next Sunday, which we know. So we know, look, he's not losing the championship. We know that. So he's going to win. He's going to go to MJF this Sunday. Now, we use an analogy. Myself and David were talking last week about MJF, and not MJF, about Darby Allin. And we kind of said he was the cat with 9 lives, and eventually he's going to do too much, and those 9 lives are going to run out, and it's going to run out against MJF at Double or Nothing. I've really loved the reign of Darby Allin because it's been different. He's been a fighting champion. Don't normally get that on AEW as a world champion. You do get it on the TNT. We'll get into that in a minute. The fact that MJF's putting his hair on the line, I just think, it kind of leads into the fact MJF is winning this. But number one, have you been a fan of Darby Allin's run? And number two, is he the cat with 9 lives that's going to run out next week at Double or Nothing?
At first, I was like, well, I just didn't like the way Darby won. I was like, do you just, I still feel that you devalued a match
Yeah.
with one of the greatest of all times with Kenny Omega and MJF
Mhm.
right away, and you devalued it having basically Darby Allin squash MJF. Now, that's basically like me stepping in the ring and squashing Brock Lesnar. Those are comparable in this scenario
Yeah.
because Darby Allin is skinnier than me. So it's like, what are we doing? I'm about 5'8", just like Darby. So,
Me too.
okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Questionable. But then I see Darby go out there and throw his body all around that ring and defend that title. Weird enough, as you're saying your 9 cat lives analogy, I'm trying to count in my head how many title defenses he's had so far, because I would not be shocked if Tony Khan thought the same thing as you just did, and he has 9 title defenses before MJF at Double or Nothing, and he goes into Double or Nothing with no lives left and loses to MJF.
It's close. I
It's
think it's
close, isn't
close.
it?
It is. Yeah, I want to say he's at 5 or 6 now. So 7 would be Dynamite if he does one at Collision next week. Because I know they're doing a Dynamite Collision hour, and they
Right.
got another hour of Collision next week, and then the pay-per-view. So
So you could
potentially it's
see
close.
7, 8, 9. Yeah, it could be close. That's so. As you're saying that, I'm trying to count it. I'm like, you know what? You're on to something there, Adam. Tony Khan may have called you up and given you the playbook here. But my goodness, I mean, I give credit where credit is due, man. And good for Tony for pulling the trigger on it, because if not now, when? Because there's
Yeah.
no right time to have Darby win that world title. I don't believe Darby beating a Kenny Omega for it. I don't believe him beating a Hangman Adam Page for it. Maybe a Chris Jericho, sure, if he got the title miraculously again, like sure, but not a lot of guys right now on that main title picture would I believe Darby Allin could beat. So good for them for doing it. Good for Tony for doubling down and having that title on his weekly show every week
Yeah.
the last 3-4 weeks. So I like it. I think Darby might end up retaining a Double or Nothing. I haven't 100% committed to that, but I I think MJF's gonna get shaved bald, man. I think so.
Wow. I'll have another I loved it on Dynamite this week when he had his interview and all the bald people. All he needed was me to complete the set. That would have been brilliant this week, but we'll see it. Yeah, he called me, Tony. I'm available.
Oh, Tony, right now.
Yeah, just call me. I'm free. But there was a wrestler that has fought MJF and has fought Darby Allin for recently. That has really, and to be honest, it's come out of left field with this guy, and that's Kevin Knight. And I'll be fairly honest, I didn't know. I am gonna swear because it's my show. I didn't know shit from up above about Kevin Knight, right? Until he signed for AEW. I was always impressed by him, and it feels as if like Tony Khan's kind of been. He's given him the TNT Championship and he's run with that. But I feel as if he may be positioning the TNT Championship a lot like the WWE would position the Intercontinental Championship back in the 80s and the 90s. It was that, is he at that level where we can elevate him to the main, to the World Championship? Bret Hart, prime example, got the Intercontinental Championship. He had the tag team, but he got the Intercontinental Championship and then he went and become a multiple time world champion. I feel as if he's trying to position this championship a lot like that. And this is Kevin Knight's kind of test. Where do you is he passing that test for you, or where do you see Kevin Knight right now?
I like Kevin Knight a lot, just like you, man. I didn't really know too much about Kevin Knight, right? I've seen him
Mhm.
here and there in bits and pieces. I really like this guy. I'm a fan. I think Kevin Knight. I mean, he's young, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
that's the tough part because he could run the TNT division for a bit. He can run, an international title. We can see him maybe go the distance in a Continental Classic tournament. I like Kevin Knight. I liked him with Speedball Mike
Yeah,
Bailey. I like him as a solo guy here now with the TNT title. I do think sky's the limit. I think Kyle Fletcher getting hurt kind of hurt Tony Khan a little bit
yeah,
here with his
definitely.
TNT title scene. And I think he saw Kevin Knight as a guy who could kind of he was like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's get him in this picture because I think he's got so many guys and gal Like so
Yeah.
many talented individuals at his disposal at any given time. And we've seen a lot of I would say not maybe not older. We still have a fair share of older talent in the company, but I would say the median age right now in AEW has lowered, overall. So I think we're gonna start to see more of the youth kind of start coming to the forefront. And I think Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher are two guys for me that are coming right out of that youth movement to the top.
And I'll tell you what, it's so exciting to see, and it's great to see as well that, I always look at it, and it's not an analogy as such, but you look at WWE and you look at their main event guys, and yeah, Punk, Reigns, Rollins, but when you look at the fact that, that they're all sort of 40s, my age to a degree, and I look at that and I go, I look down the list of WWE talents, and I'm like, who is next? And it's a tough one. Obafemi, mate, you could literally
Obafemi.
say they've made a star there. Jevon Evans to a degree, or he's gone a bit quiet recently.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the McIntyre's pushing 40, Fatu's
Mm-hmm.
pushing 40. Where's that next crop of talent? Whereas you look at AEW, your world champions 20s, 30s, maybe, not even hit the prime
Yeah.
yet. And they've got a rock. I mean, Kenny Omega's your 40, the Young Bucks and Omega are the
Yeah.
older, the older, more experienced groups. But you look at
The
the rest
Jericho.
down.
Yeah.
Jericho, Lashley, Benjamin, MVP. So
Yeah.
they've got that mixture there, but they focus really highly on that. They kind of know their role to a degree, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to any of them. They know their position, and they know that it's all about the young up and comers. And you look at that, and the ricochets to a degree. But then you look at the Kevin Knights, the Mike Baileys. You've still got Josh Alexander out injured. Will Ospreay's come back. It's just an exciting place to be right now in AEW, in my
Takeshita,
opinion. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a great that's the thing. And WWE does have it, right? Like,
yeah,
we're both, we both recognize that. You have NXT, we have Evolve, we have
yeah,
youth coming up in the system. But yes, a lot of the main players in WWE are in the 40s. And mind you, you know how wrestling goes. You really don't hit your peak in the wrestling business till your
yeah,
30s and 40s. That's really the time where you see all the guys kind of hit that next
yeah,
level. They're in that next gear. It's time to start making money for after wrestling. So they kind of get
yeah.
remotivated. I think that's a big thing. When you got two kids, a wife, a big house, a tour bus, and a private jet you got to fuel up and pay for, I think, you start hitting those towns a lot harder,
Yeah.
you start hitting those ropes a lot harder. And AEW, it is a good mixture. And like you said, they do know that's the thing I can appreciate about Chris Jericho. A lot of people, that's a key
Yeah.
guy here, right? He's a lot older. He's in his mid 50s. A lot of people hated Jericho. Me, one of them for a bit, because I knew Jericho's career. It was always about he's gonna go. He's on and he's off. He's on
Yeah.
and he's off, and he has to take time off to come back. And he was always a guy who, after a while, you were like, all right, I need a break. I need a Jericho break
Yeah.
here. And then he comes back, and you're like, all right, Jericho's back. I'm amped up. Let's go. And now he's back, and I'm like, but you can see he knows what he needs to do, and he needs to help a guy like Ricochet. He needs
Mm.
to help a guy like Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita, all those guys, and I think all of them recognize that. Kenny Omega recognized that, right?
Yeah.
If it was up to Kenny, I'm sure he wanted that world title a couple months back,
Yeah.
but he put MJ over, and now we've got a made guy in the company with MJF. So I'm excited for both companies to see who. That's the big thing, right? You know what they say about that brass ring, right? Well, you got to reach up and reach it. But at this point, I'm excited to see who's going to be the guys and gals of the future, because I think it's limitless for both companies across the board.
It really is. And on that note, a shout out to Will Cruz in NXT from the UK and Rain Leverkusen, both making big waves on NXT right now. And also, congratulations to our good friend and Ignite Wrestling champion, Tommy Tanner, on his WWE tryout. That he had a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, we don't know if he's been signed, but if you want somebody that looks like, when they say if it looks like a duck walks and a duck and quacks, Well, if he looks like a wrestler and he walks like a superstar, he's a superstar. You need to check Tommy Tanner out. You can check him out on the Ignite YouTube page, Ignite Rest Pro. You can check him out all over the UK scene. He's incredible. So we'll see. But we will see who the next crop of people are that come through, and we're excited to see that. I need to just quickly switch gears to NWA. I know you may not watch it this week, but they did do a big angle this week that saw La Princesa Tiffany Nieves. Well, she finally got her crown. Well, I say she. Let me rephrase this. So Markova wins her match. Tiffany has a bouquet of flowers, which is the Burke bouquet, which is basically money in the bank, just in flower form.
Oh.
Her monster, Greta, the 6'6" monster that she has, chokeslams Markova, and as any opportunist would, your opportunity is there to cash it in. Bang, one, two, three, she becomes champion. So congratulations to Tiffany Nieves. We'll let you know about an NWA marathon coming on hitting the turnbuckle later on. When you were saying hitting the ropes, I was thinking, say hitting the turnbuckle. Say
Hitting the
it.
turnbuckle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
say
Say you
it.
could have said it
Say
when
it,
you was
Mike.
doing it. You
Say
just
the
say
name
it.
of the show.
Say it,
Come
right,
on, hitting the
mate? Yeah.
turnbuckle. Make sure you watch it in the turnbuckle. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow him on all platforms. These guys are incredible. Adam's over here dealing with me late at night in the UK. So shout out to him.
Let's also make sure they get your stuff, which will make sure we get it promoted in a bit for sure. Right, to TNA, my second favorite brand of the year. So far, sorry, WWE, I kind of feel like I'm shitting on it. I'm not. It's just it's what it is right now. But look, this past week, we interviewed, well, literally on the day of this TNA show on Thursday, we interviewed Leon Slater, who was then the X Division champion. He was the equally longest reigning X Division champion up until that show where he loses it to Cedric Alexander. Now, Mike, I have had two theories on this. One, this is typical TNA stupid booking that he lost it, right? And I got a great relationship with TNA, but I said it on my review that I didn't agree with it. But I did offer another analogy on this, which is analogy number two, that Leon Slater is going to be in the John Cena in tournament that he's got, so he dropped the title so he could get ready for that move over there. Was you surprised that he didn't do it, considering Austin Aries' turbulent history with TNA? It would have just made sense for them to have had their own longest reigning champion. Was you surprised by that?
100%, 100%, 100,000%. I was like, this is a no-brainer, TNA. You can erase the history of a man marred by a lot of controversy from your record books for a bit, and you could have Leon Slater, I think you described him earlier as a blue chip prospect. You could have one of the fastest rising superstars, wrestlers in the world become your longest reigning champion, and you decide, nah. See, it's just I know you have a great working relationship with TNA. Hopefully, what I'm about to say doesn't end any possible relationship I have with TNA. But it just feels like classic LOL TNA.
Yeah.
Just LOL, man. Just like ha. Of course they did that. Like low hanging fruit. All you got to do is pick it, and you just walk past it and you just leave it there. So, but congratulations, to Cedric Alexander.
Yeah, of
I think that's
course.
great. I
Yeah.
think that's great for him. But yeah, for Leon, I think that's a good theory, man. I don't even think they know what they're doing with this John Cena Classic,
Uh,
honestly. I think my theory is WWE said, all right, John, we're going to have you go out there and talk about Club WWE. And then they saw everybody saying it better not be Club WWE. And they're like, John, what do we do? And John's like, we'll just do a tournament in my name. Genius, John. Get out there, announce it. I 100% think that's how it went. I really
Possibly.
do. I have no proof, but I believe it.
I agree. I just don't understand why they couldn't have just let him drop it the next taping. So he's had it. They taped the
Just
next
give
night.
it to the guy.
It was
Literally.
stupid. But I did mention Blue Chipper as well. I also mentioned Blue Chipper about someone who crossed the line this Thursday. At the end of that very match, lights went out, come back on. The former Giovanni Vinci, Fabian Aichner, appears at the end. Looks like he's calling out Cedric Alexander. Look, I thought all of Imperium are great. I think it's stupid that Thingy's under the mask right now, or one of the Americano masks. Gunther's Gunther. He's the retirement king. Ludwig Kaiser is. a different flavor of Americano. And then Vinci he come on, he was going to make his big debut on SmackDown, lasted 2 seconds, lost, didn't really see him. I feel as if he's got a lot of talent, and I think where he's gone is a great move. But again, talk about the surprise factor, Mike. I did not expect Fabian Aichner to show up on my screen at the end of Impact this week.
Did not see that coming. We typically record our show on Thursdays, but the boys might get mad at me, but I keep TNA on in the background, just to kind of keep things, gotta keep informed.
Yeah.
And when I saw him show up, I was like, Vien, VD, Vici. I was like, oh no, hell no way. It's who I think this is. And out comes Fabian Eichner. And I was like, you know what? Good for him, man, because this speak about a poor guy here. I
Mm.
used to back in the good old days when we had NXT UK was one of my favorite weekly wrestling shows. That was can't miss TV for me. I would watch it in between my classes for college. I would get home on a Wednesday and I'd be watching that at like 11:30 in the afternoon, amped up watching Big Boy Walter and 19-year-old
Yeah.
freaking Pete Dunne throw
Yeah.
haymakers at each other, and Ilya Dragunov. Some of the
Yeah.
best wrestling matches I've watched took place on that UK brand. And man, oh man, the OG Imperium, you
Mhm.
remember with
Yeah.
Gunther, Kaiser, Eichner,
Yeah.
and oh man, the last dude, what was his name? It wasn't Wolfgang, it was
Oh my God, who was it?
he had the mustache, he had the white hair.
Trent's
Oh, no,
not
it
Trent.
wasn't Seven. Um,
He's not
oh
an
my
Americano
gosh.
now, is he?
No, no.
Tyler Bate.
No,
Uh,
he wasn't an Imperium. Oh, what was the original Imperium? It was he ended up going with Sanity when they came. He was the big dude. Um
Sanity was that was
Alexander Wolf.
Wolf.
Alexander
Yes,
Wolf. That's
Wolf.
who it was. That OG Imperium, man. I thought they were going to be. I was like, this one day, these four guys are going to take over
Yeah.
WWE. And we were close. We
Yeah.
had the three for a bit, but I'm Eichner's talented. Let's see, TNA lets him show his talents. And I'm going to tell you right now here, not to go on a long one here on you, but your boy Kaiser, he's never going to be able to take that mask off ever. Never. He
Oh man,
is he is a god in Mexico.
he is. No, to be fair, he
He
really is.
is.
They love him over there, don't they? They absolutely love him. As
I
long as one of them, Gable, who I just want to actually quick say that Chad Gable, when your contract's up, just fucking leave.
just go.
Get out of
Go.
there because
Run.
you're wasted in that. I've been saying it for years, and I'll say it to the side. That is a world champion there that they just are not doing anything with, which is annoying. But I
He
will
could have been the
say,
next. He
go
could have
on.
been the next like Kurt Angle-esque type of guy
He's
with the
easy.
right tutelage. With the right
Yeah.
motivation. It could have been. He could have been insane.
No, he really could have been. But for every bit, we were just talking about Leon Slater, for every bit of bad luck that we gave him, we've given him some good luck because today, as we speak, actually, about half an hour or so ago, Leon Slater, with Liam Slater, not related, won the Rev Pro Tag Team Championships off of the Young Guns, Luke Jacobs and Ethan Allen. Now, the only question I have, and I don't know if it was title for title, because obviously Luke Jacobs and Ethan Allen were going to go against FTR at the Revolution Pro anniversary show before All In, the night before All In. So I don't know if that throws Leon and Liam into the mix, which would kind of throw this TNA AEW stuff into the mix as well. If I don't know if that happens or whether it's just they're not the champions and they're going against FTR for the AEW championships. I'm not sure. So if they're champions, of course, because they're probably going to be losing next week at Double or Nothing, I would assume, against Cope and Christian. So we'll see. Anyway, throws out a lot of. And I think you're talking about Progress Wrestling, right? When you was talking about Walter and
Yeah,
Dragonov and
yeah,
that back in the day.
yeah. I
Yeah,
remember
Progress.
all that. Oh man, there's some good old times.
Yeah, indeed. Well, but we'll see how Fabian Aichner does in the in WWE in TNA going forward. But if there's a place to go, I always look at the AJ Francis, the Ash by Elegances, and what the success they've had. And Lee Ying Lee, Xia Li, as well, two-time knockout champion as well.
Incredible.
So incredible talent. So we'll see how they go. But back to WWE for the last two talking points of the show. We're going to drop back in. It's how we normally do it on here. We start with WWE, end with WWE, and the rest in the middle we just throw it together, literally.
I love it.
But a name that has been, and again, we talk about surprises. A real surprising name, and this is from the Wrestling Observer, so take it from what you will. They reported that the Tom Pestock, who used to play Baron Corbin, there's an internal talk within WWE about bringing Baron Corbin back, and that the rumor has it that it's going to be, well, potentially it's the person that Danhausen has been magically trying to work on SmackDown. Which, if I'm Baron Corbin and they pitch that to me, I'm going saying, "See ya, thanks, I'm out of here." I don't know how that would work, but was that on your bingo list, Baron Corbin back to WWE?
No, absolutely not. It wasn't on my bingo list. I really thought he was going to show up in like TNA, or I thought he was going to do like an indie run. I really thought he was going to. I thought the TNA route was going to be the best route. I think
Yeah,
genuinely, just like you said, I think TNA is the place to go,
yeah,
kind of just to revamp yourself,
yeah.
and then you decide where you want to go. If you want to go to AEW, you want to go to WWE, you want to go anywhere else in the globe. Hey, let's move on. Um, I didn't think Baron Corbin. Now, listen, you say if I'm Baron Corbin, I'm walking. I am not signing up for the Danhausen clone. Hear me out though.
Go.
Danhausen is the most talked about wrestler
Yes,
right now in
he is.
WWE, and that you're talking. Roman Reigns is your world champion.
Hmm.
Cody Rhodes is your WWE champion. Yet Danhausen is the most talked about WWE in all of media right now.
Yes, he is.
I'd sign up in a heartbeat. I would hitch my trailer to the Danhausen for as long as the contract states. Look, if they say, Baron, we want to bring you back 6 months to be Danhausen's big Frankenstein monster vibe here, which you're gonna wear face paint for the next 6 months. How much? How much is what's the TKO? What's the TKO credits look like? Because that's all that matters at this point.
Yeah,
I digress. If it's just Baron Corbin coming back as like the lone wolf Baron Corbin, I could move me. Throw him down in NXT. Let him work with the new up and coming kids and have him get them tuned up for the main roster if that's the case. I don't know what that looks like. Wrestling Observer, obviously, let's take it with a grain of salt, like you said, but it could be
mhm,
interesting. I could be on board for it. I've always liked the guy. I thought he should have won the championship when he was Money in the Bank. I didn't like how
yeah.
they did him, but different times.
Different times and a great finisher. I think only one person ever kicked out of End of Days, if I remember
Drew
rightly.
McIntyre.
Drew
Yep.
McIntyre, right? The only one.
Beautiful
That was
finisher.
that was great though, right? Because I go back and this is why I love NWA so much. And it was only until like they save it for the big events, but most times out of 10, it takes one finish. I'm an old man, right? And I grew up watching when Hogan hit that leg drop, it was over. When Jake the Snake dropped that DDT, you're done. It's over. That snake's getting put across your body. It didn't take 17 tombstones to put you down. I can understand it though. And I always say this because going back to the Darby Allin thing, you mentioned about the four coffin drops. And I said, and I used the analogy of when Undertaker took three tombstones to beat Kane. I said, I accepted that. Kane was a monster. You had to do something different. It wasn't going to be the usual tombstone 1, 2, 3. When Darby Allin took three coffin drops to beat Brody King, I agreed with it because I said, I can understand it. Brody King's far bigger. Maybe one coffin drop ain't going to do it. It took three coffin drops to win this week. Forgive me, and I can't remember who he
Mm-hmm.
was facing this week. Forgive me, but and I
Cashman.
was like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, why? Why did he need it? It,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like I didn't understand the rationale for it. In my opinion, I know we're going off on tangents here, talking about finishes,
No.
but I'm just a big stickler for your finish is your finish, and it should only be hit more than once if there's a rationale to do so. That's how I
Yeah. Oh,
personally.
I'm strong on that too, man. I sometimes it pains me. It used to pain me in AEW when they would have them do like the Canadian Destroyer montage of like
Oh,
six Canadian destroyers, and I was
um,
like, oh my goodness, like please, just one,
yeah,
like a finisher should be. That's the whole point. It's a finisher. I agree. Like very rare should somebody be getting kicked out of a finisher, and like you said, unless it's a rationale behind it. If they're an absolute monster, or in the sense of like maybe they, like I always felt that the missing lore with the Samoans was funny because the only person that really claimed like had actually showcased it in a match recently was CM Punk with how like with when he headbutted Roman in the WrestleMania match and it hurt him more. Like
yeah,
if you do it if you do like a DDT to a Roman, and that's your finish, you're like, yeah, Roman can kick out of it because Samoans have harder heads. That's lore built
Yeah.
into the product. Like things like that. Like I always felt that works. Like no reason for what was it? Three. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think. The three the coffin drops,
Yeah.
the on MJF, like four of them was like crazy. Like it's
I
MJF.
kind of agreed to it because Darby was the way I looked at it was Darby was one of the four pillars. So I used a coffin
Fair.
drop as a pillar, right? And
Oh,
then the
each
headlock
pillar.
takeover because MJF took the piss out of him and beat him twice of it, right? I
They
understood
have
that
been
bit.
doing that spot for years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that one and the Brody King one I got. But the last couple of times when he's needed two or three to put away, I didn't agree with it. I just felt like there was no need for him to need to do. He shouldn't need to do more than one on those particular ones he was facing at that point.
That's fair. I didn't necessarily like how MJF kicked out of the one winged angel in the Kenny Omega match. I didn't like
Yeah,
that either.
no,
I didn't like that one.
I'm just a grumpy old man when it comes to this shit. Right, I'm a big thing about your finish is your finish. It should be protected and get no selling. Poison Rama is the one that does me.
Oh,
You've done about the Canadian Destroyer montage in AEW. They done a Poison Rama montage, and I no longer look at that move in the same vein as what I used to look at it in. And yeah,
I agree.
that's a pretty thing one for me. But last subject before we wrap up. Look, the main event's been signed. Clash in Italy. Again, a pay-per-view over here at a nice time for us over here in the UK. Love that. Love that. Can't wait. Get me fish and chips in. Bosh, we'll have some of that ahead of Clash in Italy. Cody Rhodes, one-on-one with Gunther. Now, the interest me was the last time that they done a clash in Germany. Cody Rhodes dropped the heavyweight championship to Drew McIntyre in that three stages of hell. There has been talk of Gunther going over at Clash in Italy. My thing is I feel as if Cody I feel as if this match has gone too early. I feel this should be SummerSlam match for Cody, unless they go down the route of Punk comes back. Because if you remember, Cody said to Punk, "Whenever you want that shot, it's yours." Maybe
It's
that
yours.
brings Punk back to the blue brand to set up Punk and Cody for night two of the two-night SummerSlam. But are you surprised that surprise has been the word of the show that Cody and Gunther's gone on this early?
Super, super surprised because I've of the ideology that a Cody Rhodes Gunther match gives you the old school feeling of those big 80s wrestling
Yeah,
feels. It's America versus the foreign entity,
yeah,
and we gotta beat the right. It's Rocky Four, right? It's Rocky versus the Russian. In this case
yeah,
scenario, it's a big Austrian son of a bitch.
yeah,
Like he's got to take him down. He's one of the most dangerous wrestlers in WWE right now after getting put to sleep by Jey Uso at WrestleMania. Sure, why not? Still hurts that feel for me with Gunther here. The
mm,
Jey Uso loss at Mania hurts still to this day. It hurts me a little bit because, mind you, Gunther may not be a lot of flashy wrestling, but he is one damn good wrestler, baby.
oh yeah,
Can't deny it. One of the best. Old school, love it, love it. Slow, meticulous, works the body, technician,
yeah,
power. I love it. I think this match is to be honest with you, I think this is a WrestleMania match,
yeah.
not a
It is.
SummerSlam match,
No,
not a
exactly
Clash
that.
in Italy.
No, no.
Weird timing for this. To be honest with you, a year ago when Cody beat Gunther for the crown, the fake
Yeah,
championship in Dubai,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
I thought that's where we were heading to Mania that year. Gunther
yeah,
Cody championship, and then Cody has to lose to Gunther, and we start the story again. And Cody has to Rocky Four. We've all seen
yeah,
Rocky Four, right? Boom, that's it. That's what I thought we were gonna get there. We'll see how this goes. I do like your Punk shout. Punk, we haven't seen Punk in a few weeks. He looks yoked, absolutely massive right now on social media. He's
yeah,
huge. Um, that's a good shout. I didn't even think about that. Raw is going to be the Bloodline show again.
yeah,
SmackDown is going to be the normal show. Minus Sans Bloodline. So Punk going to SmackDown. I like that. I like that shout. So what does that mean? Punk's heel again?
Maybe.
If he
I mean, they
shows
could.
up?
It depends on how long the story is, isn't it? Because they could do a way where
Mm,
they do a face v face. Cody could go over on SmackDown, and then Punk could then kick
mm.
him in the balls at some point, and then that's or it could enlist the help of an old wise man. I don't know. I don't know.
Uh,
Potentially, I don't know. I'm
that
throwing
match
stuff
is
out.
tough though.
Yeah.
Who right like just right off the top of your head, who wins that clash? If there's no interference.
My heart says Gunter, but my head says Cody. That's the thing. But I feel like does it then degrade Gunther a little bit? You brought the guy over.
That's
And I always say this, and I said this about Megan Bain recently in AEW because she was going for tag title after tag title after tag title, losing, 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 losing. Said there's at one point where you keep losing and that believability as champion goes. And luckily enough, not luckily enough, unlucky enough for Penelope Ford, but lucky enough for Lana Cross, she come in and then they won the tag titles and now they're unstoppable, which is what they should be. Gunther, I'm not saying won't. I don't think it would be degrading if he lost, but to have him jump over and his first big show, big match on SmackDown. I know he had one against Royce Keys this week, but his first big championship match on SmackDown, he loses. Maybe Royce Keys cost Cody the championship and they go into a program. There's an idea.
there's an idea, there's a lot of names in this. Ricky Saints comes to
Yeah.
mind here, They had a little, interchange. That's such an interesting thing because I've been thinking the same thing. Like for me, I'm a big Cody guy. I like Cody. I know there's a lot
Mhm.
of, people that are starting to turn on Cody again, and so be it. That's how wrestling goes. John Cena
Yeah.
went through the same thing and we celebrated him last year, the entire
Yeah.
year. So kind of same trajectory, maybe not same impact for Cody, but that's so tough because, like you said, you devalue Gunther because they've been trying to rebuild Gunther since the Jey Uso thing. That's why they gave
Yeah.
Gunther the
Yeah.
big retirements,
Yeah.
Goldberg, Cena,
Yeah.
because they had no choice.
Yeah. Exactly.
How do you? It's a tough one. I think it's too soon. I think you should have pumped the brakes. Who's to say, Cody versus Royce Keys in Italy is a good thing, and maybe you
Yeah.
bring Gunther in the night after or something. You bring him to
Yeah.
SmackDown the night after and start setting something up towards SummerSlam, which is a bigger show. Maybe not the intended goal, but very interesting summer in WWE right now because I don't think I felt very like blah on the product in a while.
Yeah.
And I feel very blah this summer with WWE.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do. It's an exciting times right across all brands right now, which is always good to see. Mike, look, we're done on the week is wrestling. Anyway, we condensed it very nicely. But before we go, look, where can they find you on social media? What have you got coming up that you can tell us? Hit us with it all, Mike.
Man, Adam, thank you for having me on the show. Make sure you guys show some love to Adam, hitting the turnbuckle. It's been great talking with you, man. Hopefully next time we get your co-star, get David in here.
Yeah.
Kids are we throw the kids in daycare for a day. Don't worry. Um, Listen, it's been great talking. You guys can find me mouthing off with Mike Wrestling Podcast at MOWM_podcast. I do a lot of collab, and I'm part of Four Sides of the Ring, my good brothers. We do Thursdays. We talk wrestling. That's same thing like this. We talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
big stories. I'll be at Double or Nothing next weekend for AEW. I'm excited. Last year they were in my neck of the woods and they did a fraction of the ticket sales
Yeah.
that they did in New York. So I'm excited. So stay tuned to socials. You'll see us and the Four Side Boys taking over Double or Nothing. That's it. That's all I got. I'm here. I just like wrestling. So whoever wants to talk wrestling with me, I'm always down to talk some graps.
Excellent stuff. Right, well, make sure you follow all that and the Four Sides of the Ring as well to do that because they've got some great stuff and they're going to be at Double or Nothing, of course. So keep a lookout on socials for that. I need to shout out. Okay, here we go. TNA Wrestling had some great interviews coming. Had some great interviews recently. Leon Slater, Eddie Edwards, Victoria Crawford. There is a TNA exclusive playlist on our YouTube at HTT Buckle. You can see them all. Macklin, Eddie Edwards is there 3 times. We've had him with Brian Myers. We've had him on his own twice. Macklin's there. Hammerstone was there, funny enough. Leon Slater's been on there twice. Tom Haney fan, Victoria Crawford. Just go and search it all on there. Also, need to shout AEW. Big thank you for Diona Perrazzo, the Virtuosa, and Billy Starks, all ahead of what was a fantastic Super Card of Honor on Friday night. Athena still walking out the champion, albeit with a little help from at the aforementioned Billy Starks. And congratulations, Billy, as well, from graduating this week as well. You nearly topped off a fantastic week by talking to us. You graduated. This must be thing and title opportunities, right? Because Leon didn't get the job done. Billy didn't get the job done. She was on Tuesday, Leon was on Thursday, and they both lost their respective championship matches. So if you're going for a championship, don't come on the show. That would be the way. Not that week. Anyway, but coming up this week, so we do a series called Independent Showcase where we talk to wrestlers from, well, we've been everywhere. We've been in the UK, we've been in Wales, we've been into Canada, United States, Australia. So we've been all around the globe. This coming week we have two independent showcases, both coming from the States. We have got, well, one of them I can announce, one I can't. The first one we got is Devon Black, who does a lot of work in Texas. Because my co-host Fiona, who was at Crossfire Wrestling, one of the NWA territory shows last weekend, because she's been in Tennessee and along that way. So she flies back from Tennessee and Texas tomorrow. Big NWA fan. That's why Power is here on the channel. So anyway, Devon Black is one of the two people we're going to be interviewing this week. And then we've got an NWA marathon. We've got three people from the NWA coming on the show. The first one is Samantha Starr. She'll be recording this week. That is actually going to be at midnight UK time. I am going to be in my sleeping bag with my coffee and my wrestling teddy bear for that one this week for that one. Then later on that day, senior NWA referee Scott Wheeler will be on. I think he's been in WWE as well. And then we finish off the NWA marathon with the Wall Tyler Stevens, who's actually wrestled over here for WrestleForce. Last thing I will do, and then I will let you go, Mike, honestly, is Ignite Wrestling. Look, big congratulations to our champion. Well, unfortunate congratulations to our champion, Chris Aries, retaining your championship with a fantastic match with Denzel Mack. Chris Aries, I call him the Comet because we see the Comet every 2,000 years, and Chris Aries smiles every 2,000 years. So we get it. We got him. We haven't got him to smile yet as a champion. So, but anyway, your next match has been signed, Chris. I cannot tell you yet, though. I've got to wait for Ignite to give me the match graphic, basically, to allow me to announce it. But when I can announce it, I will. But we do have Ignite Wrestling July 12th, Battle Lions at Boreham Wood, 96 Shenley Road. Tickets are already 50% sold, which will feature I would say the coming out of retirement of the Ignite general manager, CJ Carr. Had to retire due to neck and back injuries. Well, he's coming out for one night only. Six-man tag. It's going to be the Rebellion, Taylor James, Tom Mercer, and Ryan Curran against the CJ Carter and two partners of his choosing. And in the main event of that show, Tommy Tanner, we've already spoken about, will defend the Ignite Wrestling Championship against one of the best on the British scene. Spike Trevay returns to Ignite Wrestling to claim he was the last person to beat Tommy Tanner at Ignite. So he's now coming back for the championship. 96.ignite.eventbrite. Get your tickets on there. Follow us, HTT Buckle, everywhere. Follow Mike at the Mouthing Off with My podcast and the Four Side of the Ring podcast. Mike, it has been amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for taking your time, and we'll get you on. We'll get you all, guys. We'll get the whole crew on for a big show.
We'll get the whole crew on. Come on, a Four Sides of the Ring. Come on, a Mouthing Off with Mike. Open invite. Just tell me when.
Open challenge, right? Open invitation. We'll accept, and we'll get that sorted out. But from Mike, you and from me, Adam Cousins, you've been watching the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, good night.